So Ravens wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. is, as we all know, one of the most high-profile figures in the entire National Football League. But with that comes this under-the-microscope lifestyle, especially when it comes to his digital presence, Sarah.
And I mean, the latest example came in response to a simple highlight of, a one-hand catch tweeted out by the Ravens Twitter account. And it prompted OBJ to speak out about the hate that he feels he receives.
I'm Bobby Trossett alongside my co-host Sarah Ellison. It is Friday, June 23rd, and this is your morning Ravens update from inside the vault.
So with J.K. Dobbins in the middle of contract negotiations with the Ravens, we'll dig into how much he might be worth in a new deal.
Plus, Fox Sports personality Colin Cowherd actually thinks that the 2023 Steelers are a postseason team over the Ravens.
We have all of that and more coming up. Thanks for waking up with the Morning Vault, where you get the most important Ravens news in about 15 minutes. Well, we all know that Odell Beckham Jr. is no stranger to being in the limelight, but with that fame often comes heavy criticism, and despite being on the other side of 30 now and with nearly 10 years of service in the league, the criticism, it hasn't died yet, and I don't think it will anytime soon, Bobby.
Yeah, not yet, and it may never, right, to your point. So that's the name of the game, though, when you're a star in the NFL like OBJ. I mean, he really is a global brand, and as you mentioned up top, the Ravens team Twitter account tweeted out a video earlier this week. It was of one of OBJ's signature one-handed catches. And in response to that, again, kind of unprompted, he tweeted out the following, quote, "This is why people be so mad at me and hating so hard. I ain't make the rules, man. I just played the game." And then he included a bunch of sobbing emojis, close quote.
All right. So like you said, it was kind of an unprompted comment to what was really a positive tweet here, a positive, highlight anyway. So, Bobby, I've worked with you now for almost a year. We're coming up on that year mark, and I know that you love throwing on your interpreter hat for tweets like these. So give it to me. Like, what do you think he meant by this?
Oh, I just love and adore cryptic tweets. I knew you would know that by now, but yeah, I guess. Like, thanks to a fan's tweet in response to OBJ's, I feel like we may have the context we need. So I'll read that for you. And then I'm just going to lean into Chris Anderson at Too Much Anderson on Twitter. He tweeted the following in response, quote, "A wise man once said that jealousy is just love and hate at the same time." And OBJ replied with, quote, "LOL, I'm right there with you. Hate is definitely love in the worst way," close quote. So, I don't know. Interpretation, Sarah. Look, first and foremost, I don't know what inspired this tweet from OBJ, right? Like, it doesn't seem like, and you and I literally combed through the quote tweets. We combed through the replies. There was not a whole lot there. Of course, you have your Pittsburgh trolls that are out there that are just trying to, get under people's skin and whatnot, but there wasn't a lot. So just want to throw that out there. At the same time, I get the sense that at this point in his career, this kind of stuff, and that's really all it seems to be, right? Like stuff, noise, whatever you want to call it. It's just dirt off the shoulder. I mean, we deal with similar stuff, not at the level, not at the trajectory that OBJ deals with it, but we have some of that. And I think in his mind, though, it's almost like he's playing with house money, given this 1-year prove-it deal that he's earned after losing all of last season to the ACL tear. So, again, I don't think he pays a whole lot of mind to this, which is what kind of surprised me about his response. But again, he's used to this.
I mean, I've been doubted all my life, so that's really, for the other people to do, and that's their own, that's what they got going on. That's not what I got going on. But yeah, the time off just allowed me to grow and learn, because when it first happened, I just wasn't in the best of place to even think about playing football again after I just, did that and got back on the horse, and then it happens at the, the worst moment. And if you think about it, it was the longest season for me ever because we made it to the Super Bowl. I also had started training since last November consistently. So I was training, it was just a long season. I was at the end. I remember, Cooper Kupp and I looked at each other and I was like, I'm happy this is the last week because I can't do another one. So The doubts is for whoever has them to have them, but that's not what enters my mind and my body. It's just something that I've carried myself with all my life. I know what I could do. I'm just excited about. It's still a process to get to August and then getting into camp, so still got a lot of time.
Yeah, and with age and experience, there comes wisdom, and he's, we're hearing more and more about this. He's bringing wisdom to the Ravens wide receiver room. And there's no doubt that while OBJ is an alpha male who wants the ball and he's angling to resurrect his career in Baltimore, he also seems like a guy who's acknowledging what it means to be that veteran in an otherwise relatively young wide receiver room, aside from, of course, Nelson Aguilar. In fact, Bobby, I read in a report, I think it was from The Athletic, where James Prochet was super upset after a play, and OBJ went over and kind of coached him a little bit. So he is embracing that role and is able to take all the wisdom with what he's been through.
I think I know what my role will be as far as, coming out and being able to show it every day and being able to lead. And also, I feel like a good leader has to be a good follower. So just being able to be there for these guys, questions that you need. I might have questions myself. So just, we're all here to learn. And I'm excited about that room. There's definitely a lot of talent in that room. There's going to be a lot of competition for spots. So, we gotta all work together, and it's definitely got a good feel in there.
All right, still to come here on the Vault. What is the value of J.K. Dobbins as he seeks a new NFL contract?
The Vault is sponsored by Oakley. Express your style and build a look that's made for you. And I know for me, I've been rocking the Prism Black polarized lenses this summer, and I'm loving them so far. Oakley's changing the game, and it's time to discover a whole new world of possibilities. Do you run? Do you golf? Maybe you train, or perhaps you just want to look like Lamar Action Jackson. If any of the above is true, you got to get yourself a pair of Oakleys today. Suited for everyday eyewear with frames and lenses allowing for an extension of self. Really, it's an expression of your personality. There's more than meets the eye. And here on The Vault, we're all about look good, feel good, perform good. And that's why Oakley is the perfect partner for us. And hey, since it's officially summer, you may want to upgrade your sunglasses game right now. So go visit Oakley.com to find yourself a pair today. Oakley offers Prism Lens technology, which is a proprietary technology to Oakley and available for everyday settings as well. If you're interested in learning more, head on over to Oakley.com and do your own research. And while you're there, get yourself a pair of everyday glasses that'll be sure to change your look for the better. When you wear Oakley, there really is more than meets the eye, but don't just trust Sarah and I. Try for yourself. I've worn a lot of sunglasses brands in my life, and I can confidently say that Oakley's not only the best looking, but the best quality out there. So head on over to Oakley.com for more information today. Right player, right price. We've heard that phrase uttered countless times by the Ravens front office going back to the early years of Ozzie Newsome as GM. And so we want to apply it to the situation we now find ourselves in with running back J.K. Dobbins, who we all know is seeking a new contract as of just within the last few weeks or so.
Yeah, and I think that Dobbins is the right player. I think he's the right player for Baltimore right now. He's young, he's hungry, he's talented, and I like him in Baltimore. The more tricky part is figuring out the right price for both sides, both the Ravens and J.K. Dobbins, obviously, which is why they're still in negotiations. And as we know, when El Toro, as he likes to call himself, is healthy, El Toro, he's a beast. But his career has been a roller coaster with a strong rookie season, but then an injured second-year season, and then a drama-filled third season that was, partly injured also. And I really enjoyed reading Baltimore Banner's Jonas Schaefer Thursday. He did this big in-depth analysis of Dobbins' numbers of last year before and after week 14. Now, we remember week 14 is the week that he returned from getting that scope to clean up the scar tissue in his knee. And the results from before and after that scope, they were stark. Okay. His 3.5 yards per carry and 0 EPA from before week 14, it had Schaefer saying, quote, "The Ravens running game was generally worse off whenever Dobbins was involved, and sometimes significantly so. Okay, but then what about after week 14? He comes back, and even though he wasn't able to hit that sixth gear when he was able to break through the line, and even Dobbins admitted himself he wasn't able to find that sixth gear, but he was sensational everywhere else. And despite not having that sixth gear, he nearly doubled his yards per carry to 6.6, and then he ranked fourth in the league in EPA. So he was able to put up those kind of numbers. Remember, when Lamar Jackson was sidelined and opposing defenses knew Dobbins was the main source of offense for Baltimore. So in summary, here's what Schaefer wrote about Dobbins' career in the NFL so far. Quote, over Dobbins' 3 seasons, he has gone from sensational 1 year to sidelined the next, from a drag on the Ravens offense in October to their main power source in December. And then Schaefer asks this, how do you put a dollar figure on that? Close quote.
Yeah, and really, it was just a well-done study top down into the numbers by Jonas there. And that's the context around JK's career. To give a little bit more context, though, we also know that the running back market is just straight up suppressed league-wide, right? Guys like Josh Jacobs, who led the NFL in rushing yards last year, they're not able to get a new deal. Saquon Barkley, as we know, is trying to, and Dalvin Cook, we all know what happened with Minnesota earlier this month. So it's wild right now.
Yeah, Bobby, to your point, it's just not the best environment for JK. But Bobby, let me give everyone an idea of what prices are looking like right now within the top 10 paid running backs heading into 2023. Number 1 on the list, not surprising, Christian McCaffrey. He is making $16 million a year. And then right below him is the Saints, Alvin Kamara, and he's at $15 million. Then you have about 5 guys who are all in this 11 to 12 million range. Well, I guess I had Dalvin Cook in there. He just got cut, but that's where he was at. So it kind of seems like 12 million is right there where guys rank from, number 3 to number 7. And then after that, you got 3 more guys to round out the top 10, and all 3 of them are on the franchise tag. There's Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, as you mentioned, and Saquon Barkley, all of them at 10.1 million. So that's kind of this range in the top 10 going from 16 million per year to 10.1. So Bobby, when I think of deciding on whether to sign guys, I always think of the 80-20 rule. Okay. And the 80-20 rule is that if you can get 80% of production of a current player, okay, so in this case, like JK, if you can get 80% of what he can give, but with only 20% of the cost, then you go with the cheaper player, even if he's slightly less talented. So listen, I don't think JK is going to get 16 million like McCaffrey. Maybe he can get into that $12 million range with those other guys who are in the top 3 to 7 paid running backs. But with him having an up and down year, coming off of an injury, I don't think that contract is coming this offseason. I could be wrong, but that's my prediction. And I see him betting on himself and trying to make as much money as he can this season. And then the two sides can revisit next year after he plays on his $1.8 million contract in this final year of his rookie deal. But from a Ravens point of view, they would have to seriously think about if they can get similar production, at least 80% of what JK could give, especially when you have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, who will make almost not any, but almost any running back succeed just by his presence. All right, Bobby, Fox Sports talk show host Colin Cowherd. He doesn't seem to be too high on the Ravens going into 2023, eh?
Not exactly, but having listened to the segment we're about to share a small snippet from in full, I got reason to believe he was lobbied hard by his co-host to buy into the 2023 Steelers over Baltimore. Sarah, why, you ask? Lord only knows, but here's his reasoning that he came up with.
And I'm going to go with the Steelers over Baltimore. Cincinnati still wins the division. And I have 3 reasons. Are you ready for this, J-Mac? If TJ Watt plays, they win. Last year, 8-2 when TJ Watt played. Last 2 years, 17-7 when TJ Watt plays. He's healthy. He plays, they win. The second reason is their top 7 or 8 players don't get hurt much. Cameron Hayward, Minka Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt's only had 1 year with injuries. Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris, Alex Highsmith, Kenny Pickett, they don't get hurt. They play. Their chief rival, the Ravens' top 6 players outside of Mark Andrews, the tight end, all get hurt. Tackles, running backs, Lamar Jackson, wide receivers. So A, when TJ Watt's healthy, they win. B, their top 6 or 7 players are very durable. And the third reason is they finished winning 6 of 7 and 4 straight. Why? Their defense was unbelievable.
So, Sarah, he goes on to note just how strong of a year Pickett had under center for Pittsburgh down the stretch the second half of last season. And he's not wrong. Kenny really rounded out, and he should be credited for such. But if quarterbacks make or break teams' postseason chances, as Coward claims they do, which again, he's not wrong, I think we can all agree with him, then wouldn't you feel more confident in a significantly more accomplished Lamar Jackson willing a team to the playoffs over a second-year player in Pickett who's still developing? I know I would.
Oh, I think most people would outside of Pittsburgh, I guess, outside of Colin Cowherd also. But Colin is clearly concerned about Baltimore's durability issues that they've dealt with in recent years, which, is a central reason as to why he's giving Pittsburgh the upper hand.
I never doubt their talent. I doubt if they'll be healthy. 3 years in a row, they can't stay healthy. There's got to be something behind it. He said this. San Francisco had this issue. And San Francisco this past year wasn't as dinged up. And my takeaway is, did they practice not as severely, not as hard? Baltimore cannot stay healthy. And it's mostly their offensive players getting hurt. Is practice too hard? Is there extra hitting? There's got to be an answer for it.
So one of the answers, if you ask me, if you ask a lot of folks within the Ravens flock, it walked out the door in January when the Ravens dismissed strength and conditioning director Steve Saunders. I know Derek Wolfe and several other former Ravens would probably tell you he was the sole reason for injuries of the past, but I'm just not willing to go that far. Injuries are too freak of a thing to place that kind of blame on one individual. The point here is Colin Cowherd or any other NFL pundit, they aren't wrong for expressing their doubts about the team's health, but if they're going to take such a hard stance like the one he did here, at least do your homework and be able to acknowledge the changes made to Baltimore's training regiments, the times in which they now hold practice in the heat of summer. They've placed more of an emphasis being put on individualized workouts, given a player's injury history, and so on and so forth. That's part of the puzzle here. So as much as it's within bounds to have those concerns, have those doubts, there is context that you need to provide as well. And hopefully the context that is now in play and the adjustments that have been made will start to pay off for the Ravens this fall.
And before we fly, some other quick news items, beginning with NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, who we had on the show just last week. He reported that former Raven and current Jets safety Chuck Clark, he indeed suffered a torn ACL and is out for the season. That comes from sources following Chuck Clark's MRI after he had that injury, I believe it was last week. So it's a tough break for Chuck, who was very durable when he was here with the Ravens, and our best goes out to him as he rehabs and looks to bounce back next year. In other news, it looks like the second-year player Isaiah Likely, he is over there at Tight End University in Nashville, Tennessee, which, Tight End University has been created and led by a few tight ends, including Chiefs All-Pro and Super Bowl winning tight end Travis Kelce, and Likely posted several pictures from that event on his Instagram if you want to go check that out. And finally, set your calendars, because Ravens training camp passes will be available to the public on June 12th at 11 a.m. So you can claim your passes at the team website at that time, again, June 12th at 11 a.m. And there will also be an open practice, not just at the team facility in Owings Mills, but a bigger open practice at M&T Bank Stadium, and that will be on July 29th.
Thanks for listening to The Morning Vault. We created our show to keep you plugged into all things Ravens. If you've been enjoying our content, please consider joining one of our membership platforms at patreon.com/VaultTime. Ravens Vault podcast. As you probably know by now, we have been betting on ourselves by creating content independently from any big broadcast station or corporation. And with your membership support, you'll give us a chance to keep churning out daily Ravens content for years to come.
Yeah, and a special shout out to two of our returning patrons, Stephen Dentz and Jason Zarotniak. And we'd love to hear from everyone, whether you're a patron or not, with comments, questions, or if you'd be interested in advertising. So you can reach us by email via BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com. And that is all the time we've got today. But be sure to submit your questions for our monthly mailbag episode, which will be released the first week of July.